Meeting will please come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank Jerry Barron for conducting the meeting last week in the absence of the chair and the vice chair. And this is his turn this week. He is volunteering at the LPGA and was unable to make it for the meeting. He has given his proxy to Jeff Hendren. The first item is the approval of the minutes, the regular meeting, August 24th. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Mike seconds. Will there anybody find any corrections or additions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes? 9-0. Next up is just mentioned work session from a week ago. Do I hear a motion on that? Jackie?
Second.
Jeff has got second. Any corrections or additions? All those in favor? 9. Next up, the Joint Advisory Committee reports. First on the docket is Recreation. Deborah.
Good evening. All amenities, again, were reported to be in good condition with the additional notes as follows. Over at Metfield, some members suggested that a second gathering area on the west side of the pickleball courts with benches and a shade umbrella. And they also asked if pickleball classes could be offered. Over at Blowing Springs, it was noted that the bathrooms and trash receptacles could use more attention during high traffic days and events. That's what happens when you have popular programming. And over at Tyree, a member commented that it would be nice to have a shaded seating area near the water to sit and enjoy the lake view. And finally, at Tanyard, just to let you know, the volunteer group starts their fall work schedule September the 12th. In addition to deep cleaning and touch-up painting, they plan to install a couple of water diversion projects, repair a broken stone culvert, and reinstall the bench near the rapids that was washed away a few years ago. As a community, we're really fortunate for all these different volunteer groups we have. They really make this place special. So if you're out there listening, thank you to you all. For the August trail reports, over 800 users per day, over 25,000 for the month, over 211,200 year to date, and so far the most highly used trails are the Blowing Springs Greenway, Gravity Zone, and the Ledges, which is back in the back 40. From the staff reports, John informed us that attendance was up at both ranges over 20% over the same month last year, same time period, and that the tournament that they had just held was a huge success and everyone really appreciated the food trucks. Something about food brings us all together. Rick informed us that the swinging bridge at Tanyard will be repaired this fall. Work will begin to repair the Lake Ann water issue at the pavilion as the parts have just now arrived, and the London Park washout has been addressed. And finally, Joan told us that the fall youth tennis classes have started. The cracks in the tennis courts are being repaired as budgets allowed, and remember that those 2 courts are going to be resurfaced. The Bluebird Trail Playground and Treehouse should be completed this fall. That's the one on Reardon as you come by. It's looking really cool. She announced all the pool and beach closes, as well as dates for several of the fall events that are coming up. Any questions or concerns? With that, our next meeting is Monday, October 9th, 4 o'clock, here in the boardroom and live stream. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, Lakes.
The Lakes report for the month. Tom presented the newly updated fishing, boating, and water sports regulations for the upcoming year based upon a review by a subcommittee for the Lakes JAC. The major points include motorized personal watercraft such as jet skis, wave runners, sea-doos, surfboards, hydrofoils, seaplanes, and other similar types of personal watercraft are prohibited on all POA lakes. The definition of a personal watercraft was expanded to include the new types of vessels available on the market, particularly electrified versions of the listed vessels. Jet skis have always been banned, and we simply expanded the definition and extended the ban. Personalized motorized watercraft such as kayaks, canoes, and paddleboards are allowed on POA lakes, but are restricted to travel no faster than 5 miles per hour. Verbiage across the document was updated for a clearer, more concise interpretation. A vote will be taken by the Lakes JAC at the October meeting to approve the new edition of the 24 regulations. The committee reminded the public of the plan to lower Lake Windsor beginning October 18th to allow the city of Bella Vista to complete the street repair on Chelsea Road. Next Lakes Committee meeting will begin, you don't have the date. That was it.
Thank you. Next up is golf. Chairman Ruth Hatcher.
Okay. First of all the advisories are on the website as well as the full minutes. We're giving a brief of the minutes for other audience instead of the entire thing. First off, Keith reported in maintenance. Fall emergence were in progress. The new weeds are being worked on, as well as dead trees on number 13 in Highland. The bathroom were taken down, and trees down at Country Club, plus pinning up more trees in the wintertime. Green aerification is best. Bent grass golf courses is starting, and it was done mostly this last week. Number 8 and 17 asphalt repairs at Highlands, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Bella Vista Country Club maintenance shop asphalt repairs in the future, and the height of grass has already been raised starting a little bit earlier this year. Daryl Baldoon in the golf operations, the August golf rounds ended at 23,104. They were down by 10 over last year. The year-to-date rounds are 142,560, up by 25,857 over last year. August was an extremely hot month with record-setting temperatures and over 10 straight days over 100 degrees. So being down 10 rounds is pretty darn good. He also wants to thank all of the maintenance and superintendents for all their extra work they did in the hours of keeping the grass growing and green during the hot spell. Tournaments, Alex, the AGAG tournament was a great success. He thanked all the staff and Greg and his staff for the incredible job. The AGA was awarded Bella Vista and Alex with the Game Changer Award over 130 tournaments, and they select one Game Changer for the year, and Bella Vista got that for 2022. We were honored to receive this award. We also thank the 91 volunteers. Daryl had already signed a contract for 2024 for next year for the AGA tournament, and Parent-Child tournament had 18 participants. Prostate cancer tournament was last Saturday, and the rally and cure will be October 7th. General information: Gary Mertz thanked the homes for the house the officials during the AGA tournament, and Dave Armstrong said 72 guys for the Future Cup will be playing the third week of October. They sponsored Operation 36 and gave donations to junior golf. He thanked Daryl and Trevor for all their help with this project. Our next regular Golf JAC meeting will be Wednesday, September 11th at 4 o'clock here in the boardroom. Questions, comments?
Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth.
Ruth, I'd
That's,
just like to make a comment. Thank you for everything you do for golf with all of your volunteers and coordination.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that's quite a deal. Out of 130 tournaments, they selected Bella Vista and Alex to receive the. Good job, guys. Good job. Next up is the. We don't know how good we got it until we get away from here. Okay, next up is the financial report. Beth.
Yes, looking at the month of August, the financial overview. First, looking at the consolidated financials just for the month of August. You'll notice in the chart on the right that revenue exceeded budget and prior year. Revenue was at $3.5 million for the month of August. Contributing to that revenue, water capital buy-in fees and new service connections was $102,000 better than budget. Food and beverage was $41,000 better than budget in August, but $491,000 better than budget year-to-date. Golf green fees was $38,000 better than budget and $504,000 better than budget year-to-date. The significant variance in expenses for August was wages and benefits were $33,000 better than budget, maintenance and repairs $56,000 worse than budget, and we had a large expense related to the Trafalgar settlement, legal expenses of $494,000. Looking at the POA only year-to-date performance, you'll see the revenue of $18 million was better than budget and prior year. We did take this cell tower sale of $900,000 out of the prior year, but even if we'd have added that back in, we'd have still been about $300,000 better than the prior year, year-to-date. Contributing to that revenue, the golf course revenue is better than budget, $641,000 year-to-date, and better than prior year by $697,000. Food and beverage revenue is better than budget, $491,000 year-to-date, and $574,000 better than last year. And assessments are $104,000 better than budget and $406,000 more than last year. And looking at expenses, the chart in the middle, you'll see that expenses just edged over the budget, and it is over prior year as we expected and budgeted. But in that expenses is that large legal expense related to the Trafalgar fire of $621,000. If you'd have taken that out, we would be better than budget year-to-date. EBITDA, we have a positive year-to-date of $400,000, which is $900,000 better than budgeted. Even with that $621,000 Trafalgar fire expense, we're still $900,000 year-to-date better than budget. And we expected to be worse than prior year. Looking at water only year-to-date, revenue is better than budget and a little bit less than last year. The water sales are worse than budget by $102,000, but they are better than last year by $112,000. New connections and capital buy-in fees are better than budget by about $150,000, so that's contributing to that revenue. Looking at the expenses, the chart in the middle, we are about $300,000 worse than budget, and we are worse than prior year. The meter supplies are a big contributor to that. The inflation has really hit them hard, and we're also having to do a lot of repairs. EBITDA, we're at 2.6 positive EBITDA, which is about $200,000 worse than budget, and it is worse than prior year. So besides the revenue I've talked about and the expenses, the cost of goods sold is worse than budget of $145,000. That's contributing to that as well. Looking at the cash position as of the end of August, we have a total cash of $7.9 million. Water has operating cash of $3.7 and reserves of $1 million. The POA only has operating cash of $2.3 million and reserves of $900,000. Doing something a little bit different this month, being that we're mostly through the season, we're kind of looking at the statistics and how it lines up with revenue. So the first one we're looking at is water. The active water accounts have grown year-to-date by 3%, which is 15,628 accounts. And we sold 458 million gallons of water so far year-to-date. The water sales increased in August 77,000, year-to-date 112,000, and they've increased 2%. Looking at the fitness center usage, despite the closure of Reardon Hall, the total fitness center visits has increased by 15% compared to 2022. Now, revenue is down 3.5%. That can be explained by more people are buying activity cards. Activity card fees are up, and so they're not having to pay those daily use fees. And also the facility fee, the reservation is down, and that's due to the closure of Reardon. Looking at the gun range, the usage has increased 33% compared to last year. 36% compared to last year. And the revenue has increased 24%. The number of visitors has increased, but the spend per visitor is down. That could be due to the economy. Lakes, the total number of boats registration is up by 337 year-to-date, which is 5%. And the revenue is up 10,000, which is 4%. And we are seeing a bigger increase, a trend in the smaller boats, kayaks, versus the larger boats. Looking at golf rounds. Total golf rounds, 142,000 year-to-date. It's an increase of 22% compared to 2022. Green fees and cart revenue are 3.1 million year-to-date, also a 22% increase. Ball range usage has a notable increase of 30% compared to 2022, and range balls alone have generated 51,000 year-to-date in revenue. The range fees have increased 63% compared to 2022. We feel that more people are using the driving range that don't have activity cards, so that's why the usage is up 30% and the revenue is up 63%. Across the pro shops and the range, the equipment and apparel sales have increased by 82,000 compared to 2022. We've talked a lot about how well food and beverage is doing this year, so this time we thought we would just highlight the star, which is the BV Bar and Grill. Looking at it, the food sales have increased by 19% year-to-date. Beer sales have increased 21% year-to-date. You'll see that the sales is around 1.5 million year-to-date. EBITDA has increased 29,000 compared to 2022. And lastly, I went through most of this. The department better than budget would not be a surprise as far as EBITDA beating budget. The top three, based on what I've went through, shouldn't be any surprise, the golf and recreation and lakes. The bottom three, you'll see general income. That's because of that Trafalgar Fire legal settlement fee is the reason it's worse than budget. But the biggest call out there is the 900,000 better than budget EBITDA for the POA without water. And then the water's EBITDA is 200,000 worse than budget, as we previously discussed. Any questions? All right.
Thank you. Hey, David, I wanted to make a suggestion. Since we have a large number of members in attendance today, maybe it would make sense to do the tenured presentation before the comments. That way they have the most up-to-date information. Just an idea?
You guys
Makes a
agree?
lot of sense.
I think we're in agreement.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, just give me a second.
And then we'll do open forum after that. Okay.
All right. So this is the presentation. For some of the people, they've already seen this, so I apologize for being redundant. But here we go. We're going to talk about the Kingsdale Clubhouse and the Tanier Creek Practice Center facility. These are proposed projects. We're first going to talk about the Kingsdale Clubhouse and some logos that we've developed. Our marketing team has done a great job on that. So Kingsdale Golf and BV65, and we're going to talk about what BV65 is in just a moment. But our goals for that building is to modernize the interior of the building, the flooring, the paint, the ceilings, the trim, all of it. It needs work. Complete renovation of the restrooms. They haven't been done in a very long time. And relocating the restrooms, because when you walk in the main entrance, the very first thing you see is the restrooms. Let's move those so that's not the first thing that you see. And then add glass to the entrance of the restaurant so it gives a nice open feel as opposed to these wall when you walk in. The goals for Kingsdale, reduce the size of the pro shop. We don't need that large of a pro shop over there taking up a lot of square footage. And square footage, we want to make sure that we're maximizing revenue based upon square footage. So instead, move that square footage over to the restaurant. So since we have to we want to relocate the bathrooms, put that square footage and add that square footage to the restaurant. And I have a plan of the building that'll come up in a few slides, and it'll be a lot clearer than what I'm describing. Complete renovation of the kitchen. The kitchen hasn't been renovated in 20 years. Most of the equipment needs to be upgraded or replaced. The facility is long overdue for a renovation. Most successful restaurants are renovated every 7 to 10 years. Our last renovation, other than the balcony area, it's been a long time since we've renovated there. And then create a dedicated bar. The bar will be able to be locked up, thus allowing us to allow card play during the day. So imagine that the pro shop personnel can go into the restaurant, open up the restaurant, allow card playing in the morning, but the card playing can be unattended because you can't get into the bar. BV65. The name is derived from the year the community was founded, which was 1965. The concept will be a barbecue restaurant. We feel that this will fit in nicely with BV Bar and Grill, which is all-American food, all-American club food, if you want to call it that. Highlands, which is pizza and Italian. And then Lake Point, which is steak and seafood. So it just fits in nicely with that. Restaurant would be open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Price point would be similar to this restaurant. And this is our number one restaurant, is BV Bar and Grill. And we anticipate that this one will immediately become our number 2 most profitable restaurant. We anticipate first 12-month revenue of $1.7 million. And Tommy just informed us today that our restaurants will, for the first time ever this year, will exceed $4 million in revenue, if not a little bit more than that. So here is an overhead. So here is the entryway here when you walk in. This is the existing location of the restrooms. We would relocate the restrooms over here, thus giving us more square footage in the restaurant. The pro shop will be, we're calling it right-sized, reduced in size because we don't need it that large. We've moved the countertop over here, and we've moved the entryway from this side to this side. So you walk in and you immediately see the front entry or the countertop, and you don't have this large horseshoe countertop that takes up a huge amount of space that is really unnecessary to use that much space. You'll see that we've added the new bar here, and then we'll have a bar wall right here, an entryway so we can lock it. And then the kitchen is over here, and that just needs a lot of work. It's just old. It hasn't been renovated in 20 years. This is an artist's rendition of what it would look, the bar would look like. And then this is the front entryway. So you would come in the doors, you'd have glass, you'd be able to see your neighbors eating, and then you would go check in at the host stand. In the back, we would have a bike pavilion. We anticipate that hikers and bikers will be a good portion of our business. There is already a soft surface trail behind the clubhouse there. I don't even know if anybody is aware of that, but there's one already there. So we would have a little area. This isn't necessarily exactly what we would build, but this is the closest that we could find as an example on the internet. But we want to make sure that we have bike racks in the rear of the building and bike racks in the front of the building, because we know that those customers will make up a portion of our business, and we want to be welcoming to them. And there's already a trail there. All right, the cost. We're estimating the cost is $1.4 million for this project. This includes $60,000 in contingencies. The largest portion of the contingencies is electrical. If you recall from one of our tours or the presentation regarding the rec, formerly known as Reardon Hall, we had to completely redo the electrical in that building. We almost had a significant fire in that building. And this building was built not that long afterwards. So we're going to have to potentially redo all the electrical. This cost includes everything: kitchen equipment, FF&E, merchandise fixtures, IT, POS, HVAC system upgrade, relocating the bathrooms, adding square footage to the restaurant. So this is the all-in price. We feel very comfortable with this price. So we're not, asking for additional funds down the road. We anticipate that the project will commence in December. And a 4th of July opening would be real nice. So we feel that we can get it done in that amount of time. I think the important thing to note is that a large portion of the closure will be during the winter time. We want to, let's get the work done during the winter time when we're at the absolute slowest. All right, the next project. Let me get a sip of water. All right, another logo developed by our marketing team. So Tanyard Creek, hopefully you can see the T and the C. You can see a club head, you can see a little flag and so forth. So they had a lot of fun with that logo. Practice facility, simulator and bar. And so here is the entry view of, you come in, you'll see that we have a nice outdoor seating area. The building will fit in nicely in that environment. And I have an overhead map to show you where everything will be located. So that's the front entryway view. And then here is the rear view. You'll see the two teaching bays on the far right-hand side, and then 8 covered stalls, and there would be at least 27 uncovered stalls. So in the very least, we're going to have the same number of hitting bays that we currently have. We think we may be able to increase that number by a little bit, but we won't know that until we've done all of the grading of the area. But in the very least, we know that we'll be able to get the exact same number that we currently have. So here's the layout. So this is the parking lot here. And then this is the landing area here. You'll see what we'll do is we'll add a putting green. This putting green will be just for putting. It won't be putting and chipping, which tends to be an issue. It's about 30% larger than the existing one. And then we'll have a chipping and sand area, and you'll see that we've added 2 sand bunkers there. And we've angled them in such a way where if you missed it, it's actually going off into the woods. This is the location of the new building, is on the far side. We originally were going to have it on the near side, but there was setback issues with the property lines and so forth. And then we decided, okay, well, if we're going to have setback issues, let's move it over to the other side. And then we actually fell in love with having it on the other side. We actually thought it would be a nicer setup. The T-line will actually be lowered by 2 feet so that we can eliminate that huge transition that goes from the upper level to the lower level. That large transition eliminates more grass surface that you can hit off of. You'll see that we'll create nice, clearly defined targets as opposed to just standing up there and hitting it as far as you can. You want some targets so you can work on your game. So we really think that what they've come up with is pretty nice. You'll notice there is a dotted line that goes along here, and that is the floodplain, the flood zone, and we can't do anything in that area. We can put irrigation. What we're talking about is improving this landing area. We can put irrigation just to the side of the flood zone, but we can't go into the flood zone. We can throw water in that area. We can mow, but we can't do many improvements. We can't do earthwork and so forth. All right, so here is an overhead of what the facility looked like. So parking lot up top, driving range, landing area over here. This is your entrance. You're going to come in, nice shaded area where you can sit down and enjoy a beverage. Here's the entryway. Pro shop. So what we want to do is we want to do one-stop shopping. The current pro shop at the driving range is too small, so we're really only selling golf clubs. We want to be able to sell golf clubs, shoes, hats, gloves. We want to take that person and go all the way through. Because anytime you say, hey, you're going to get your golf clubs here, and why don't you get in the car and drive over to the country club to get your shoes, and by the time they're halfway there, they head on home and they buy the stuff off of Amazon. So we'd much rather do one-stop shopping here. This is where the golf simulator would go. So you can play a simulated round of golf during the dead of winter, and you can get that done in about an hour, hour and a half. We'd have a little countertop where you'd sit and you can have fun having a beverage of your choice and making fun of your buddy as he's playing Pebble Beach or something like that. Over on this side, we'll have a bar. And we'll have TVs over the bar so you can watch the football game that's going on, and you can sit there and watch out onto the driving range and watch your buddy practicing and make fun of them and so forth. It'll be a nice way to view, so you can sit in here and look out, or you can sit on the shaded area. People love to sit outside to have a drink, but they don't want to be in direct sunlight. They wanted a shaded area, so they want outside but shaded. Here's your 8 covered hitting bays right here. And this is your 2 teaching bays. Our existing teaching bays are way too small for safety purposes. They have normal like garage doors, and you have to have it wider and taller. Inherently, someone's taking lessons, they could potentially shank, so it has to be larger. So these are larger than what we currently have. Club repair would be here. So instead of at the current Grip It location, you would drop your clubs off here. And the Grip It one is only open so many times during the week. This would allow you to drop them off with someone, and then the employee comes in a handful of times a week, does the work all at one time, and then gets them out to the property owner, to the member. Ball cleaning. One of the challenges that we have, and we were and Daryl and I and Jan were doing a tour today, is when the ball picker comes off, they park right in front of the hitting area, and then they offload, which makes no sense. It's not safe. It interrupts people that are practicing. And so this would allow us to come in from the side, process the balls here, and then hand them out in this area. Much more efficient setup, safer setup. All right, let's talk about Tanner Creek. So let's give some background. In 2019, we did 135,000 rounds of golf. Actually, Keith was talking, and when Keith joined us almost 10 years ago, we were doing 115,000 rounds. Was that the right number? And between his work and the work of our golf course superintendents, we have a number of golf course superintendents here. Please raise your hand so we can recognize you. Thank you. You guys have been doing an outstanding job because we've grown the game. We've grown the game from the 135,000 in 2019 to we're probably going to knock on the door of 200,000 rounds this year. And that's because of the great job that the entire team is doing. Currently, we're doing about 56,000 buckets of balls at Tanyard Creek. Now, in 2019, we were doing about 15,000. So we're doing 56,000 because if you have an activity card, you're getting free range balls. And giving out all those free range balls is helping grow the game of golf in Bella Vista. Because if you're sitting there and you're new to the game and you're like, hey, should I go down? Should I spend $5 on a bucket or not? I don't know if I want to do it. But if the choice is, hey, I want to hit a free bucket, hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to work on my game, then I'm going to go play golf, I'm going to pay green fees, all that. So we're currently doing 56,000 buckets. We anticipate we're going to go up to 70,000 buckets with the new facility. We're currently doing $190,000 in merchandise, club sales, and grip sales. We anticipate we're going to go up to $305,000 because of having a larger shop and so forth. Regarding the simulator, the golf simulator, you can play a round of golf in an hour, hour and a half. We would charge $20 for activity card holders, $25 for members without an activity card, and $30 for guests. Our reservation policy would prefer members, just like our regular reservation policy prefers members. This helps us keep up with the current trends in the business. This is Top Golf Light. But it's attracting a different clientele, and that's a good thing. And then we estimate the first year revenue for the simulator is $75,000. Goals for the practice center. I mentioned this earlier. We would have 8 covered hitting bays, 27 uncovered. So it would remain the same. In the least, we may be able to add additional. I also mentioned before the 2 all-weather teaching bays. This is helping, all these instructions that we're doing, we are helping grow the game of golf in Bella Vista. So that's part of, golf course conditions, keeping the prices the same for multiple years, free buckets, all these lessons. That's why we're growing the game of golf in Bella Vista, all those things combined. And then the grip and club repair would be moved into the new facility. We would keep the old facility, we would repaint it, and we'd store some of our mowing equipment there and just use it for storage. No reason to rip it down. Goals. Practice area, we'll have a short game practice area, 2 bunkers for practicing, and then the large putting green, and it would be only for putting, would be 30% larger than the existing putting green there. And we're going to talk about Plan B, but Plan B is improving the landing area. If you've gone out to the driving range and you see that dead area in the middle, that's all rock. There's nothing you can do. You can throw as much water on rock as you want, you're not going to grow grass. Goals for the practice center, the bar will allow simulator, those that are using the golf simulator, to enjoy a beverage. We will offer hot dogs and prepared sandwiches, but nothing more than that. Once you add like hamburgers and so forth, you have to have a flat top, you have to have a hood. It takes up a lot more space. It dramatically increases the cost. A roller and moving sandwiches from BV Bar and Grill over to there is a very efficient way of doing it. We've done this before. The bar overlooks the driving range. We've talked about that. Large outdoor seating area. We anticipate first year revenue of $150,000, and we feel that hikers and mountain bikers will be a portion of that because we have the Tanyard Creek Nature Trail right there. The parking area. So right now we have 99 parking spots. Now keep in mind a lot of these are double parking spots because of it used to be back in the day, you had a dozen or more that were trailering. You had 20, 30 that were trailering in their carts. Now it's a lot less. Per ordinance, we're going to have to add islands, and I have a slide that's coming up that'll show you what the parking lot will look like. So we're going to have to add islands, and we're going to have to add some trees there that is required by the city. We're going to use up approximately 15% of the parking lot, that front 15%, that's where that putting green is and that chipping area and so forth. But even though we're losing 15% of the parking lot, we're going to go from 115 parking spaces to 99 parking spaces. So we're not going to lose anything. Sorry, we're going to go from 99 to 115. Thank you. You were paying attention? I was testing you. We're going to reseal the parking lot. That parking lot needs it like you can't believe, and then restripe it. We're going to also add some trees along the main entryway, so it creates a nice environment when you're driving in. And then here is the plans for the parking lot. I apologize for the quality. This is from a civil engineer. They're more interested in making sure that it's precise than it looks good. But you'll notice, so here is the driving range down here. The landing area is towards the bottom. We'll have to slightly reroute the entryway, the driveway in. We'll have additional trees along the entryway. We'll have a large island here and multiple islands throughout. We'll have the golf cart parking area in this area towards the east, and this is all required by city code. We anticipate that the project would commence in November of this year. The driving range would be closed immediately. At one point, we were hoping that we could keep the driving range open longer, but with having to lower the T-line, got to do it immediately. We anticipate that we'll open up in September. Keith has said that he thinks there's a possibility that the practice putting green and the chipping green may be 1 month afterwards because of grow in time. So he's prefaced that, but the building and the ability to hit balls would be in September. All right, cost. So we're going to talk about option A and option B, and I'll clarify more what option B is or what the difference is. But option A, it's $3.6 million. That includes the clubhouse, parking lot, tee surface, practice area, and it includes $133,000 in contingency just in case money if things go bad. Option B is $4.1 million. The difference between those two is the irrigation and the topsoil for the landing area. So it's rather expensive for that landing area. The funding for the project. So this is combining the cost of both the Tanyard Creek, the first project we talked about, and Kingsdale. I'm sorry, talking about Kingsdale, the first project we talked about, and Tanyard Creek. This is option A, which does not include the landing area. It's $5 million. We would self-fund. The POA would contribute $500,000. An additional loan with the water department would be $1.4 million, and then we would get a commercial loan for $3.1 million. That would have a 10-year term or call, whichever one you want to call it, and a 20-year amortization. Most commercial loans have a 3 to 5 year term, and we were able to push them to a 10-year term. Right now, the rate is 7.4%. The monthly payment would be $25,200 with a 20-year amortization. This is important. There would be no prepayment penalty, so it gives us a lot of flexibility to pay early. Often, commercial loans will have a prepayment penalty because when you pay early, the lending institution doesn't make the money that they had originally wanted to. But we've stipulated that we don't want to have a prepayment penalty, and we could use ERC funds from that. And I have a new slide that I just added about ERC funds and what that means. This is option B. So everything the same except this is including the landing area. So the total cost of the two projects combined goes to $5.5 million. Really the same numbers here, POA contributing $500,000, the water department 1.4, but the commercial loan goes to 3.6, still a 20-year term and a 10-year term, 20-year amortization. The monthly payment goes to $29,200 over the 20-year period, and no prepayment penalty. So here's the downside if we don't do the landing area. The landing area, if you've been out there, you know that it's impossible to grow grass on rock. It chews up our range ball picker. We have to replace parts on that consistently. But by having clearly defined targets that you can aim towards, which we talked about how we would create those clearly defined greens and bunkers and so forth out there, so it would allow you to have a target to go towards. Also, it would really not be a good idea to think about doing this as a phase 1, phase 2, because to do the irrigation and bring in the topsoil and grow grass on the driving range, you're going to have to close for 6 to 9 months. So if you're going to do it, you might as well do it during while you're constructing the building. Doing it afterwards at a later date just does not make sense. Okay, ERC funds. Employment retention credit. Some of you may have read about this in the newspaper, but in March, the POA applied for ERC through the government. This is related to COVID relief. If you're not familiar with what ERC is, we submitted a claim. We conservatively feel that the POA will be awarded $2 million because we were impacted by COVID. While our claim is legitimate, if you've read any news reports, there is a large number of illegitimate or fraudulent ERC claims have been submitted to the IRS, so the IRS is pumping the brakes and slowing everything down. So we don't know when we're going to get our award, or if it's going to be $2 million or more than that. It's actually broken out into 3 different quarters, so it's possible they could award us for quarter 1 and quarter 2, but not for quarter 3, and there's a lot of dynamics to that. This is why we've hired a law firm that specializes in this. So they're representing us because this is really something that's outside of our wheelhouse. So I guess the moral of the story is we feel conservatively optimistic that we're going to receive $2 million within the next 12 months. All right, additional information. So right now, the POA has $900,000 in reserves. That is related to the 2020 plan, where we committed to the community that we would set funds aside. So that still stays there. We're still there, and we're still adding to that amount. We estimate about $180,000 will be added to that fund in 24. So towards the middle or end of 24, we will actually exceed the $1 million mark on reserves for the POA. Water is still $1 million. Over time, we're going to have to increase that. We're going to have to build a water tower on the west side because our population is growing out there. So over time, we're going to have to grow that. The current loan with the water department, and always remember, while we split our financials into the POA and the water, it's still one entity, one tax return, one audit, one EIN number, but we still separate it. And so we currently have a loan of $2.1 million. We would increase that to 3.5, and we pay interest. The interest rate we pay is the applicable federal rate, which is the AFR, which is an IRS term. Go have fun looking that up on Google. External loans. So currently, for BVRC or the REC is $2.4 million. The proposed would be 3.6. with a goal of paying the entire amount off in 10 years. Okay, so our goal is to pay off the entire amount in 10 years, but why do we have a 20-year amortization? Just in case. There's no prepayment penalty, so you have that flexibility. You can always pay early. Beth and I were talking earlier, and she was saying even years ago, she would get a 30-year mortgage on her house, but she would pay early, trying to get it paid off in 15 years, but if something horrible happened, she could always go backwards and just pay for the 30 towards the 30 years. So it gives us a lot of flexibility, but our goal is to pay it off in 10 years. Borrowing from the water department makes a lot of sense because the AFR rate is significantly lower than prime or what we'd get from a bank, and we're paying ourselves. Unreserved funds. Okay, so Tom, in spite of all this, are we redlining the POA financials? Absolutely not. The water will still have, in addition to $900,000, we're going to still have an additional $1.3 million. And the POA will have $1.4 million in addition to that. I think I mixed up those numbers, but you can see them there for yourself. So we're not redlining and we're not overspending and then we regret it down the road. So combined unreserved funds or extra cushion is $2.8 million. So we're being careful. And I have spoken for a half an hour straight, and I am tired of it. So thank you for letting me switch the agenda, David.
So I'm sure we all got that. We on the board have seen that multiple times. It's still mind-boggling. It's a very quick presentation. But that being said, we will do the open forum. We have a letter to be read, 2 letters to be read. You may start.
Email from Janice Sims, Kilsis Place. I wish to voice my opinion that the POA board does not borrow money for the proposed renovations of Kingsdale Building or the Tanyard Creek practice facility. I feel the current economic climate in the United States and the high interest rates coupled with the fact that these 2 facilities do not have to be done right now. I do agree that the Tanyard Creek practice facility sounds wonderful and is well thought out, but is not a necessity. I am sure the Kingsdale restaurant kitchen probably needs to be improved, but Papa Mike's crew was able to provide good tasting food with the current equipment. I also remember that the Kingsdale restrooms and golf shop received an update around 6 years ago, as well as the whole building size was expanded. I do ask that the bike racks and pavilion not to be put anywhere close to the golf cart paths in the back on the east side of the building. The idea of entering into a 10-year balloon note and amortizing over 20 years tells me you do not have the monthly budget to support a payment of at least $60K per month. Please do not leave the board 10 years from now with the bulk of this loan still yet to be paid. You did not pay attention to the Country Club Golf Course renovation project that was partially budgeted last year, nor the membership services building that was scheduled for this year. These 2 major projects, along with Lake Ann Spillway, will require significant monies to accomplish. I know that you have known about Kingsdale and Tanyard Creek renovation projects for months, but give the members only 1 week to know about your intentions. You are our representatives. We cannot let you know our desires if we do not know what you are doing behind closed doors. Please do not approve entering this loan. I am not saying do not do the renovations, just do not borrow the money to do them. You agreed to be fiscally responsible when you signed the papers to run for the board. If you separate them, you do the Kingsdale project even though you borrow 2/3 of the money from the water department, and table the Tanyard project where you are going to borrow the money from the bank. One last question. Is the $1 million budget money still available for the membership services building, or did any of it get spent on the Reardon Hall renovation? This email is from Jerry and Connie Fritz, Dogwood Drive. So sorry for this last minute email. I was planning to attend tonight's board meeting. but last-minute issues will keep me from attending. I have to say, my wife and I are 100% behind the improvement plans. I commend the POA and your team for great vision and execution regarding these two projects. As witnessed by the BV Bar and Grill popularity, we are in touch with the golfing community's future needs. These upgrades at both locations will only enhance the POA experience and increase long-term community properties. Please thank everyone on the teams for their hard work and to create these improvements.
Okay, we have 9 members who have signed up to speak. We'll take them in order. And as always, we ask that if the topic has been covered, you can please be brief, and you don't need to cover it too many times. So the first up is Ken Nelson. His topic is budget. Yes, that it is 3 minutes.
Well, first of all, I'm 14 Kirkbridge Lane, 19 years in Bella Vista, and I want to take a brief moment to thank the board and the members of the Charity Committee for their contribution to Bella Vista Recycle. I'm on the board of directors down. It's very much appreciated. We'll find a good home for it. We're a 501(c)(3). But my real intentions here are the budget. I wasn't sure I was on track, but I asked all 13 of my neighbors how they felt about borrowing money for wants instead of needs. And every one of them said, if they can't pay cash, if can't determine where the money is, debt service, there's just too many issues involved with borrowed money. That's why our country is a mess. And there's bipartisanship, and it's just not the right time. At 7.46 money, it's just not a good spend. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Ken. Next up, Dave Armstrong. Want to talk about the driving range?
I want to talk about Tanyard Creek and also what we're going to do at BV 65. First of all, I just want to commend the board for your service and thank you so much for the progress that we have made in Bella Vista. I haven't been here as long as my predecessor, but I've been here for 6 years. And in those 6 years, I've seen nothing but great improvement to Bella Vista. I think this is one of the greatest places in the world to live, and a lot of other people that are moving here feel exactly the same way. And one of the reasons is I look at the improvements that have been made just over the last 6 years. You look at Lake Point's been improved. You look at right where we're standing here at the Country Club, that's been improved. Branchwood's been improved. Scottsdale's been improved. We have now a restaurant out at Highlands, and we're serving pizza there. So all of these improvements, even though they cost money initially, as you saw from the budget, are starting to make money. And I think that you have to spend money to make money. That's just my feeling. I think that you can't just sit here and go, well, we can't afford this. If the numbers add up the way that you're proposing them, it looks like a plus side added revenue just from the Tanyard Creek facility alone of around $300,000 a year. That's going to almost cover the cost of the loan itself on a per year basis. So in other words, this is almost paying for itself over that 10-year amortization that you're looking at. I think it's a good value. And I will say this, as a golfer and as a Bella Vistan, I do think that golf is not only growing, we're seeing it from the numbers, but we're also seeing that it's attracting people to Bella Vista. And as a realtor, I can tell you that you and your efforts by improving all of these facilities and amenities, you guys are helping us sell Bella Vista. Not just to golfers, not just to bikers, not just to people that want to be on the lakes, but to families. Our average age in Bella Vista is going down every year. Families are enjoying all the amenities that we have, and our amenities need to stay strong. That is our main business that we have in Bella Vista. And if we don't keep our amenities strong, we're going to see this village not rise like it is, but start to decline. So thank you again. Thank you for all of your time and your efforts in making Bella Vista a great place to live.
Thank you. Next up is James Smith. The topic is the driving range.
Thanks, Thanks for giving me the time. I really enjoyed the presentation, Tom. It was first time I've seen it, so it wasn't repetitive for me. But I so want this to work. I really do. I really enjoy golf. I enjoy Bella Vista as a community, and I really, really like what you've done. But it gives me pause. The fiscal obligation here, 4.2 for the driving range. It's, you know, if it were $1 million, if it were even $2 million, I wouldn't be here. But at that price, it seems like a lot. And I worry a little bit because not only is it a lot of upfront money, when we got a lot of things going on, we've done a lot of renovations. We got the rec, we've got the BV65 looks awesome. I have no qualms with that whatsoever. It just seems the price tag for this driving range is steep. You're moving a lot of ground, you're moving some earth, and I realize that costs money. But my other concern is, are we going to be able to make this work? Will we really have the revenue to pay this note? I mean, how confident are we with that? The other thing I worry about is the maintenance on this development. You know, you're going to be putting a lot of topsoil on top of rock and irrigation, and it's going to cost a lot of money just to maintain this place. So that gives me some pause as well. You know, the other thing I think is just, you know, being, like I said, money is expensive right now, and should we be doing this all at once? I really want this to happen, but we do, and I agree with Daryl completely. I think we really need to spend money to make it. I wholeheartedly believe that, but do we need to spend it all at once? And I like the numbers. I mean, they're almost there. I just worry about, is the revenue going to be there? Is the cost going to take away? Are the expenses going to take away from what we really need to pay on this note? And should we be doing all of this at one time? That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, Jim Angsted would like to talk about the driving range.
I've lived in Bella Vista for 22 years. I've seen bad times and good times. I am a golfer. I've been very active. I really commend all of the good things that have happened in the recent years, and I echo everything that Dave Armstrong said about the current and future of Bella Vista. I mean, we have done things that have brought a lot of people in. There was a time that we had a hard time getting anybody to move here. And we have expanded things, and we've made things happen. I may not be personally in favor of some of the details of the restaurant deal, but again, I do have faith in our management and our board to come to the right decisions on what and how. Yes, it sounds like a lot of borrowed money, but again, a lot of good qualified people have spent a lot of time analyzing this. I definitely am in favor of the Tanyard Creek project, and basically everything that was laid out this evening I think makes sense, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Mike Jett, the driving range.
I don't have anything to add. I'm with Dave 100%. I've been here 31 years, so I've seen a lot of changes.
Okay.
You're
Next.
right on every aspect.
Okay. Number 6, Tommy Freitag, about the budget.
Thank you for allowing me to address the board on a couple of things. Number 1 is the Tanyard Creek practice range. Is this practice range necessary? Is this a need or is this a want? Is this something that the board wants, or is it a need? The need is expenditures that are essential for maintaining the day-to-day business. That's a need. Wants are expenditures that are not necessary for our survival. So that's my question to you. Is this a need or is this a want? cost of the construction is at an all-time high, as much as 100% more than it was 3 years ago. I think we should put this expenditure on hold for a couple of years. This is a want, this is not a need. Renovation of the Kingswood complex, I think that's probably needed. Pro shop, questionable, of remodeling the pro shop. How many more employees are we going to have to add to the payroll to maintain that restaurant? 8, 10, 15? Open 7 days a week? Certainly, it dictates the number. Aren't we having a lot of time finding employees now? I see that on the website. We need employees in the restaurants. We need employees at waterworks, and et cetera. So how are we going to staff this new facility other than it's going to cost us more money? How about that we cut spending rather than adding spending? Let's make do with the assets that we have presently. They're plenty good. I don't think anybody's complaining about the driving range. One final thing. The ERC funds, is that a guarantee? What if we don't qualify for it? Where's that $2 million going to come from? That's just some of my questions to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Next up is Steve McKee. The topic is stuff.
Well, members have about 3 minutes to speak. With inflation, maybe it should be 4 minutes. My name is Steve McKee. These are my opinions. Management is proposing to double our debt to $9.3 million for 2 new renovation projects without bottom line answers, under high inflation, supply side issues, expensive interest rates, and possible recession next year. Most of us members are in fact pleased, as many have mentioned, with the previous renovations. Up to now, all appears wonderful. Golf is booming, pickleball is booming, card players have a free place to go. We have our own fish nursery, and members have been benefiting from all the cash going out of the door. Incidentally, if you haven't seen my golf report from last month, please email me, stevemckeebv@gmail.com. The problem is, debt can be wonderful for a period, but it does have to be serviced and paid back. 10-year balloons, both due at the same time, a couple $5 million, who knows? It may become a structural problem. Here are some questions. Why do we need to use even more debt, given that millions more from 2 assessment increases in 4 years have come in, and new housing has been booming and pouring in for the last few years? What is the bank demanding for collateral for this loan? Are more loans planned? Renovation costs have been underestimated on a number of projects. Why? And why should we think that these estimates are accurate? The POA obligation to repay water is $280,000 for the first water loan. What's the obligation for the second loan? Will our water rates be increased? We own the asset, we own the utility, we should have the lowest water rates in Arkansas, let alone the country. What's the impact of the other major projects? The Lake Ann Dam spillway should have been fixed a couple of years ago. Instead, it is pushed out again for another 2 years. If you, to get out of a hole, it does no good to keep digging. These projects presumably will add some revenue, but again, what's not talked about are expenses. What's the bottom line? How will more restaurant and golf losses be handled? More debt echoes the answer. As I said, it's been a great ride up to now with renovations. Members have all benefited. Structural problems, however, do not go away with debt. It is time again for putting members first rather than members in debt. Again, to contact me, it is stevemckeebv@gmail.com. Thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you. Next up,
microphone.
Excuse me. Next up is Robert. I'm afraid I'll butcher the last name. Lives on Ruthwell. Wants to talk about the budget. Is it Nelles? Okay. Okay, next up, Rick Funderburg, driving range.
First, I want to start off, I guess, commending you guys on the board. You've got some tough decisions to make for the membership here, and I'm fairly new to Bella Vista. Been here 3 years, and I'd have to say so far you're doing an excellent job. But I am a regular participant at the driving range, and I'm going to have to say that it's a need, the upgrade. A couple things I just want to add to that maybe have been in discussions, but wasn't in part of the presentation. That's the first time I've seen the presentation. I think for an avid golfer that's there to improve their game, launch monitors would be a benefit. The new ranges in Central Arkansas, you can rent a booth with a launch monitor to give you feedback on your game. I think the simulator is going to be entertainment, but I'm not going to go in there to improve my game with 5 of my buddies heckling me as I'm trying to make my shots. It could be as simple as purchasing flight scopes and renting them out. I'd pay $20 for a session using a flight scope versus having to stand in front of a simulator. Second thing I wanted to add is, I don't know, I feel like you're overthinking the targets. I mean, it is important to have a target, but it does not need to be a big grass green sitting out there for us. I've been to ranges that were target golf where it's as simple as like a dartboard. But if you know the distance and you got a target to hit at, and that's what you're aiming at, then that's all we need. Third thing I wanted to add is that the Tanya Creek is the practice range for the Bella Vista Country Club. I think that we would benefit by adding some signage for people. It's tough to explain to someone who's never played how to get from here to Tanya Creek. And maybe I can get them down there to the parking lot, but at that point now it's a hazard because they don't know where they're at and there's cars driving around. But think about that too. And thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. That completes the number of members who have signed up to speak. You want to comment? Okay. See how many questions we can answer. Should we give him 3 minutes?
Okay, so I'm going to try and answer as many of the questions as possible, although there was a large number of them. So if I miss any of your questions, I do apologize. You can email me and I can give you a more detailed answer. I think what's important to mention is that the Kingsdale project and the Tanya Creek were both included in the 5-year strategic plan that has been available on the POA's website for over a year. So this is not something that we've sprung up, upon the community. They've had ample time to be aware of that. The member resources building, that's been indefinitely tabled. The recycling center, Ken, thank you for your thank you. You're a valuable asset to our community. I'm glad that the Charitable Giving Committee was able to help you guys out this year. I think that a lot of people tend to be against borrowing, and I think wise borrowing is still acceptable. These numbers that we've used are, in my opinion, conservative. I have, through my career, learned that I would much rather come to the board with good news than bad news, so I tend to give the board very conservative numbers, and I feel that these numbers are conservative. The costs of the building do reflect current costs. Costs have gone up. Delaying the project, it'll probably only go up even further every year. I don't think I mentioned during the presentation, we used a professional architect to put together these plans. We used a professional golf course architect to develop the plans for the practice area. We used civil engineers. So this isn't our drawings. We've used professionals. We wanted to make sure that we got it done right. Need or want? That's always a tough question. But you could also look at the very nature of the POA. Do we need 7 golf courses? Some would say yes, and some would say no. Do we need pickleball courts? Some would say yes, and some would. I'm picking on you, Sandy. Yes, I am. So there's a lot of things. The true need is the water department, and they're doing great financially. But everything else is really in the want category, in my opinion. But I think we do an outstanding job at that. ERC funds, nothing in life is guaranteed, but we feel very comfortable. That's why we've hired a professional law firm that is representing us, and we feel that our estimates are conservative and true. Collateral, we would have to use some POA assets as collateral. We did that with the BVRC loan, and we would do it again with this. The water rates, our water rates have, they have not gone up in 10 years. We have passed along some additional fees like credit card fees and so forth, but your water rates have not increased in 10 years, and I don't think everybody is necessarily aware of that, how great that is. We are conducting a rate study that is required to be done by the state, and that rate study will be done next year. So we'll look forward to what that rate study tells us. The spillway engineering, that was not delayed. We actually just got the final engineering report last week. So that was not delayed in any way. And that engineering study, which was conducted by a professional engineer, is telling us that we can, as long as we get it in the next couple of years, we're right on schedule. The launch monitor, Daryl, I just texted really quickly while you made that comment, and Daryl told me that additional launch monitors, we will have more. So that's it. With regards to the targets, I don't think I was clear enough in the presentation. The greens and the bunkers will be artificial turf that we can drive over with a picker, so they won't be real bunkers that we'd have to go in and pick out. Everything else around it would be grass. So thank you for pointing that out. I wasn't clear enough on that. And with regards to signage, I agree. In general, we have an issue with our gray signage. We're actually meeting with the city next month. They've hired a consultant regarding their ordinances, because their ordinances do not allow us, all those 55 gray signs that are around our community need to be replaced because they're falling down on their own. They're so old. But our current city ordinances do not allow us to do that efficiently and reasonably. So they've actually included us as a stakeholder to meet with the consultant and to give them advice on how changes need to be made. So we're trying to get the signage improved, but you're going to have to be patient, because that study, they estimate, is going to take 18 months to 2 years before those changes get put into effect. If I missed anything, any questions, please email me. Hopefully I've covered at least the bulk of it. And thank you for coming and asking your questions and being part of our community and being involved in our community.
There were 2 items that I took note of that Tom touched on, that wants and needs. Pretty much the basis, and you've probably heard me say this before, the basis of our community is amenities, providing amenities, which means wants. So that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're trying to do that within reason and what we can afford. The other, about the water rates, we are a rural water system. We have hundreds of miles of water line, and similar to Little Rock, is that correct?
600 miles of water lines.
Okay, I think that's more than Little Rock has. So we have to maintain that, find the leaks, fill them, check them, but that's just part of the reason that goes into your water rates. So I'll open it up. Any other comments from the board?
Sure, I'll make a few comments. Thank you to the community for participating. Hope to see you here every big participation moment, because oftentimes these seats are empty and there's important decisions that are made each and every one of these meetings. So keep tuned. It's good entertainment, and it's all trajectory is really good in Bella Vista, and I feel proud to be able to serve here with my fellow board members and be a part of this community. When I look at Bella Vista's growth and I see the numbers that are presented here, it does fill you with some, real optimism that the good times are going to continue. And although there are some signs that are out there in the global economy that could point to a recession, like Steve was saying, and there's some real ifs and challenges with the banking system, there's one thing I think is for certain is things are not going to be getting any cheaper. Okay, so I think it's an illusion that we think that we can move the goalpost and watch prices come down. So although we'd love to go back in time and get a 2x4 for $2, that's probably not happening anymore. I do hear many points that have been presented tonight that cause me to take pause on this investment as well. And I'm not quite sure I feel comfortable voting in approval of certain elements of this, and I hope that we can table actually this decision till another meeting, till we can have another internal debate amongst the board members. And that's what I would suggest we do here, because I don't think we're really in a position to say yes. And I know that pains us for all the ones that have spent time to try to get this timeline accelerated, but I personally don't feel good voting either which way at this juncture.
Sandy.
So, you know how you say that things aren't going to get any cheaper? Well, one of the things that I do for my occupation is I review construction costs on a quarterly basis. And actually, wood this year has gone down 45% compared to last year. So things have improved, but they're still considerably higher than they were pre-COVID, so that's a problem. The other thing that I see, and Tom kind of alluded to it, that the estimates for both of these projects are twice what they were in our 5-year plan. And my concern there is that what are the other things in the 5-year plan are we not going to do because we've borrowed this money? And of course, my biggest concern is the budget for next year. I don't like making this decision without having more figures, and maybe that's just the underwriter in me. And lastly, we talk about real estate values and people moving here, and yes, we need to maintain our amenities and keep them good. And, I'm in favor of both of these projects. I just don't think that borrowing this much money is a good idea. And if I were moving to Bella Vista right now, and I saw that our POA, which technically should be self-funding things, was $9 or $10 million in debt, I'm not sure that I would move here, because as a member, I'd be taking on that debt. So I think we have to think about it from that direction also. So, the restaurant and the pro shop, I don't think we have a choice but to go ahead and do that, because we've made plans, but it's my opinion that we need to do Tanyard, but not today.
Others? Okay, let's get a motion on the floor. Who will make the motion approving the Kingsdale project with an estimated cost of $1.403 million, with funding provided using $500,000 from POA funds and $903,000 from a new internal loan with the Water Department? Jen?
I move that we adopt and approve the Kingsdale capital project as presented with the figures you've outlined.
Thank you. Second on that? JB. Okay, now, any further discussion? We'll let the discussion get ahead of the motion there for a bit.
My only other comment on that is that I hope that we take the water loan seriously, because sometimes it's easy to borrow from one pot and put off putting it back. So we have made the $280,000 payment as we promised in the 2020 plan, and I hope that we try to continue to do that each year.
Others? Jan?
Regarding the Kingsdale project, in past lives, I've served on other boards. I was president of a country club in Palm Springs area. What typically you find is that when you have a suite of amenities in a club or organization or community, F&B, food and beverage, is a guaranteed loser. So why do clubs do that? Well, they do that because it is an amenity. It's an opportunity for those living in that community to be able to have food and beverage, bar service, things like that. Usually it runs at a deficit and usually is made up for by the members in terms of their assessments. We are fortunate here that we have a suite of food and beverage opportunities that not only pay their own way, but as we can see from the numbers, have been increasingly profitable. That is not always the case. I think it's a matter of several factors coming together: outstanding leadership, creative vision, and I think that this new proposed project, BV 65, is going to add to that suite of food and beverage opportunities. And just as we have the Gear Garden to Highlands to BV Bar and Grill to Lake Point, this is a perfect fit. I think it's going to be wonderful. I think it's something that should be, frankly, a no-brainer for us.
Thank you. Jackie?
I concur with the need, and we've talked about this before, and I trust Tommy to do this in the right timing, but we don't have a breakfast place, and you've talked about potentially doing brunch down the road, and I just think that needs to be in your vision down the road, to provide a place that maybe on the weekends could do something besides lunch and dinner. But super excited, 100% in support, 100% confidence in you able to pull this off and be successful.
Jason?
Overall, I think this is a great thing for the community. One of the reasons that I weigh heavily on the positive side is both of these projects are revenue generators, and we will be gaining revenue from both of these. And personally, I think the Tanyard Creek revenue dollars are low. I think it's going to explode. The cool thing about it is what we've seen with range balls, for example, is, as alluded to earlier, I have an activity card, but I bring my brother-in-law that doesn't, or somebody else, so he buys range balls. I think that's just going to continue to grow. So I understand about the additional debt. I still struggle personally with borrowing money from ourselves alone, but I know we have to technically per guidelines, but I'm all for it. I think it's going to be a great project.
Okay. I will call for the vote. All those are in favor of the Kingsdale project? Against? 8-1. Mike is against. Okay, now, next item, I'd ask for a motion approving the Tanyard Creek project with an estimated cost of $4.122 million, with funding provided using $497,000 from a new internal loan from the Water Department, and the remainder coming from a commercial loan with a term of 10 years and an amortization of 20 years, using POA assets as collateral. Who will make that motion?
This includes both, option B?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll move.
Okay. Jeff makes that motion. Do we have a second? Second by Jason. Okay, discussion.
look at it, I kind of feel the construction costs are a lot. It looks like the building's pretty big. I really like the redesign of the course. I think that's really smart. I think that's really wise. I do think it's conservative on the numbers. I do think it'll be an ultimate hang. If I did only have a certain amount of money, I would just do the green and, redo the landing and try to bring in like some modular or something easier to make a hospitality component on top of that there as we kind of watch how it continues to build up revenue. I do like the redesign of the building. I think that's going to look sharp, and it's the last in our kind of, crown jewels of things to redo here. And systematically over the past 10 years, we've been able to tackle every major building in this community, and this is one of the last ones. And so it feels really good to have that addressed, and we put that in the 5-year plan for a reason. There is a lot of trepidation with the amount of cost to get into this there. If it came to splitting hairs, I would kind of do only the greens and not do the building and search for a more cost alternative way to do something there and still limp along on the current infrastructure. I am a little worried about the flooding. I am a little worried about maintenance like the other people, even with a alternative surface. Just as evidenced by over the weekend, just how quick things can rise here. I am a little worried that we're not out after Country Club and the reinforcement of this asset for some of that, but all the numbers do pencil and they look good. And so that makes you have to say, well, I'm going to trust it. But I've really heard enough of the membership here to cause me to want to search for more information myself, and to get a deeper dive with the construction companies and get a deeper dive with the architect personally. I know we're not supposed to micromanage as our seat here on the board, and so it's kind of hard to kind of consistently call for that information. But as the developer and me myself, I'll say, man, I really don't feel comfortable with these numbers here. So I'm going to have to vote no, but I wish we would have tabled both of these things and give ourselves another month, guys. I really wish we would have. I still believe that the collective here is going to be making the right decision in behalf of it, but we do owe ourselves and the community more information.
Others?
My
Jason?
past comments were for both. So.
Jan?
I understand Mike talking about the landing and how that is something that is absolutely needed. In regards to the building itself, the name of it and what's underneath the name kind of says it all. Right now we have a serviceable facility just for hitting balls, hitting range balls. We try to teach out of it, but that's basically what it does. But this new building is going to do so much more. And the things that it does more are going to be revenue generating. We're going to have an opportunity for, as we heard the presentation, a top golf-like experience. I can tell you right now, my family, the 4 families that live here that are related to me, are going to be all in on that. And they're not even golfers. It's going to be a revenue generating opportunity. It's going to be another opportunity with the bar. Of course, with food and beverage, it's no guess what makes the money in F&B. And having that bar opportunity, the opportunity for another area to congregate, to enjoy, to watch people who are golfing, hitting range balls, even if you're not a golfer, I think is going to be an attraction. So the underlying title of that facility, for me, says it all. It's a new revenue stream for us. It's a new amenity. It's something that's going to bring in money over time and increase the enjoyment of all of the amenities that we have. So that's why I'm in favor of it. I think it's going to be something positive for the community, and it's also going to bring in revenue from these different areas other than just hitting range balls.
Jackie?
I've got to say something about the driving range. I also frequent it, and it's a need for me, but it is in the area of a want. Obviously, it's an amenity. But I cringe. I respect Mike a lot, but I cringe when we talk about adding more modular to the already modular additions that are out there. It just is not what we are about in Bella Vista. We're about top-class amenities. My finance background caused me pause. Thank you to Tom and Beth. They answered a lot of my questions offline a good bit. Had conversations with Daryl, and he's concerned about the added expense for the parking lot, but that's just the level of detail that you take to try and envelope everything to something that we can make fit and we can look at. I'm very comfortable with our $5 million cash reserve and the cash flow we currently have and the increase in these monthly payments going through this is the time. We have good cash flow, we have good cash position. It's revenue making, like many people have said. We've gone to the effort. Tom's spoken to the members that live right there. They're all in favor of it. And I think this is the time. It's a lot of money, but we can afford it right now. And we are about building amenities for our community. And I can't tell you how proud and excited I will be if we pass this to be a part of being able to go see that and show everybody when we come here, look what we have here. So that's all.
Others? I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the Tanyard Creek project? 7 opposed? Sandy and Mike. It is adopted. So we will get the projects underway, and we won't have a driving range for all summer. I'll miss it. You live by the Highlands, so that's cheating. Okay, that brings me to the end of our agenda. The next item is the meetings, which the JAC's already told us when their next meetings are. So, but anyway, the recreation meeting is Monday the 9th at 4 p.m. The Lakes is October 11th at 2 p.m., followed by the golf at 4 p.m. right here in the Country Club boardroom. There is a Rules and Regulations meeting on Thursday, October 12th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. It is an open meeting. It's followed by the Board of Directors GM meeting, which is a closed meeting. The work session will be on Thursday the 19th at 9 a.m. and the next monthly regular session will be Thursday the 26th at 6 p.m. in the boardroom. Noisy crowd, noisy crowd. That brings us to the end. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor is adjourned.